We've talked about global markets. We know they're huge. We talked about import, buy, export, sell. We've talked about all that. So how do you go about reaching these markets? So there's really a total of 6 different ways of doing it and some type of iterations between them. You have everything from licensing all the way to what we call foreign direct investment. We're going to talk about each one of these. It's important that you know that because it could be on a test. But the other part is you might be able to take advantage of this whole process. Once upon a time, my father decided he wanted to have a company, and we went out and we did select logging. We would go into a forest owned by some landowner and choose 2 or 3 trees, primarily walnut trees. We would have a specialized crew go in and not cut the whole forest down, only those specific trees that we'd buy from the farmer, and we would sit down there, cut them in proper lengths, ship them over to Germany, have the bark peeled off, and then take the logs themselves and have them cut to a fine veneer because Europeans like darker woods than Americans do. As we were buying walnut trees and exporting them to another country using one of the tools we have right over here called exporting to another country in the process. In other words, you'll see different aspects as to how we're reaching global markets. It just depends how you go about doing it and the tool that you have. Let's look at licensing first. It's a global strategy where you allow a foreign company to produce a product in exchange for a fee. Did you know that one of the best-selling cigarettes in Japan was Harley Davidson cigarettes? Harley Davidson doesn't make cigarettes, they make motorcycles. Except Harley Davidson licenses image to a cigarette manufacturer in Japan, and a lot of Japanese bought the Harley Davidson cigarettes because they like the American feel of the wide open road. Oh yeah! And who doesn't like to have a Harley come roaring by, making all kinds of sounds and pollution and everything else? But that being said, only kidding. To be honest, really kind of fun. Anyway, so licensing. They license their image, they licensed their name, and somebody else used it, and they paid them a fee for every package that they sold. Over here, Marvel is a giant money machine. It's a cash register nonstop. And oh, yeah, they make movies too on the side. But you look over here, they licensed out all these products to different people. They send a proposal into Marvel/Disney. They said, yo, what's our cut? So they give them a cut off of it, and somebody else makes it, puts the Disney name on it, puts the Marvel name on it, puts the superheroes name on it, and they make money off of it. And it's all licensed product out of the process. The next one is called exporting, and you'll see an ETC, an export trading company. They'll help countries with indirect exporting, and we actually use both an EAC and ETC to sell our merchandise over into Germany, and in the process to 3 different sawmills in Germany where they would take the fine woods we would buy over here and ship them over there. It was an interesting process, but we had to have a lot of help anywhere from language to the customs as to how we went about selling the goods over in Europe. So EAC, Export Assistance Centers, then also an ETC, Export Trading Company. I would put those in my notes if I were you. Another one is franchising. You know, we have a lot of franchise. If you go to any place here in Irvine, and you pull into a shopping center, usually about at least half of the stores in there have a franchise. By a franchise is somebody comes up with a business model, and in the business model, they'll sell you the opportunity to be part of their business model, and they get a take of your gross revenue. We got 7.5% for every dollar that comes in your front door from revenue, and we'll take that over here. And in the meantime, we'll give you all this. And for 10 years, and maybe if you do a good job, we might just let you keep that franchise for another 10 years if you feel like it. So that being said, it's franchising. So in the process, it's a contractual idea, and you can get into a business you've never worked in, and it's called a franchise. Well, you can also do it in other countries. I was in Egypt, and the coolest place to go in downtown Cairo, if you want to have a date with somebody young and everything else, the high schoolers and college kids, they all went to 2 of the highest end restaurants in all of Cairo. Pizza Hut and KFC. I kid you not. You would see limousines lined up outside because they're going to the American food places rather than the regulars. And so whoever owned the franchise over there, they were making a huge amount of money in the process with just the KFC and the Pizza Hut. So you'll see franchising take different forms. here's the process over here. If you look at this, you want to get a quick snack, it depends where you're at. You too can have a pizza with eel, mussels, and cream cheese on it, or even toss in a few olives. It depends what the products are, because sometimes the franchise will change this different aspects of it. Dunkin' flavors in Taiwan, sweet potato, honeydew melon, green apple, kiwi fruit, mango. Really? This is Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts, a sweet potato donut. Okay. To be honest, I would love to try it, especially a mango one or a kiwi fruit. That'd be interesting. So that being said, options. If we're a McDonald's, if you go into a McDonald's in Germany, you can get a beer with your Big Mac on top of it. You go into France, you can get some wine with it. That takes care of all the winers in all of France over in McDonald's. So that being said, there's a lot of different things that people sit down and have. Do you think a McDonald's would sell a hamburger in India? Duh, that might be a problem. So they have alternate ones in the process. So you'll see that sometimes a franchise will alter its overall appearance, alter its menu to fit the common aspect of it, of who's out there. Over here in Malaysia, you have a Berber ayam McD, chicken strips and porridge with onions, ginger, and shallots. Egypt, the Mick Arabia, a grilled chicken with tahini sauces. In Japan, a teriyaki burger with an egg. An egg, that kind of cracks me up. Okay, I know you're yoking at the whole thing. Anyway, that being said, Germany, a beer with a burger. Israel has kosher kitchens, which means they separate the meat from the dairy product with two separate kitchens in the process. Whatever it takes to sit down and improve the franchise. Then you move on to contract manufacturing. With contract, they sometimes don't want to open up a brand new factory, so they'll go rolling in with a model where there's an existing company and here's our product, sell our product. Pepsi does this quite a bit. The Pepsi, they contract out instead of having their own factories around planet Earth for their soda, they actually contract out often, where Coca-Cola tends to always keep and control their own in the process. Usually contract manufacturing is a good way to sit down there and go into a country with a small capital footprint and still sell your product with your name very impressed right on it as you go. So then you have a joint venture, and it's a partnership between companies, often from different countries. They undertake a major project. You'll see a lot of this in the electric car industry. You'll see a lot of it in autonomous vehicles. So some of the heavier ones you'll see where the capital investment's huge. So you see joint ventures will take place between two countries, and they'll agree to stop fighting each other for this product over here. And it works pretty good. By the time you're all done, then you have the joint venture strategic alliances, and you'll see over here on joint ventures, you share technology and the risk, you share the marketing and the management. But some of the problems with them, sometimes people steal the technology, which is not uncommon because some countries don't honor the aspect of trademarks and copyrights and so on. And sometimes the actual venture can become too large to be flexible at all, or one partner wants to do something different. And then finally, you'll have strategic alliances, a partnership between two or more companies to help each company build competitive advantages instead of them both wasting money and capital and fighting each other. They say, let's declare peace over in France. Okay, so they declare peace in France and they fight everywhere else, but in France, they actually get along and they work together in a strategic alliance. And then finally, you have foreign direct investment where they get permanent property and business in other nations. And you'll see a lot of that where they actually put a footprint down and a corporate headquarters down over there as well. You'll see over here, we have several of them here. We have Volkswagen, Toyota, Honda. Recently, 5 years ago, Toyota opened a giant manufacturing plant in Texas. And so now they have foreign direct investment where Toyota's putting money in. You'll see a lot of major automakers having some type of foreign direct investment in the United States to avoid import restrictions, and also to sit down and give Americans a job to build long-term loyalty for these products that will last anywhere from 3 to 20 years, called cars. Buying American, you'll see over here, Toyota is a Japanese car company, but they make them over in Kentucky and Indiana, with about 75% of the parts are American. Honda is another foreign company, but they have a manufacturing plant in Ohio with 70%. The Chevy Malibu, I thought Chevy was an American car. Okay, but that being said, Kansas and Michigan, and less than Honda, the parts 66%, but that means 34% are coming from someplace else. Nissan, Tennessee, Ford Fusion, Michigan, with a whole 30% of parts from America. So you'll see all that. And then finally, really, the multinational corporation really is all about foreign direct investment. When you talk about a multinational, you have several criteria. Number one, there's a physical manufacturing site in the country in which it's located. Secondly, the management tends to recruit nationals from that same country. Third, you have stock sold on a stock exchange in that country, and the majority of the employees are employed from people within that country. Those are the four traits. I would put those down on my notes that make up a multinational. You have a location, you have the management, you have the stock, you have the employees. Those are the four criteria for a multinational corporation. Some of the world's largest corporation, Walmart, still tops it of all. You have State Grid is up there right now. You have Sinopec, which is Chinese, China National Petroleum. It used to be in the top 10. You did not see Chinese companies, but look at them. They're up in there now. Royal Dutch. Now, by the way, look at some of the names over here. You're seeing petroleum companies up there. So you have really China National Petroleum, Dutch Shell, you have BP, you have ExxonMobil's. For the top 10 are companies that pump oil out of the ground for use in vehicles. You'll see Berkshire Hathaway is up there as well. So those are the revenues by the world's largest corporations. So talk about reaching global markets. You can reach everything from a business in your backyard to have a multiple strategies, 6 of them and some variations on a lot of them, to sit down there and make your mark on planet Earth. Take care.